right, I think it's recording. Hey everybody, it's Gita Kulkarni. I'm with the Humor Edge, and today I've got Rita Denoyer Garcia here. I love what you do, Rita. Rita today, my guest, she helps people, women get themselves unstuck and not using spreadsheets and not using the to-do list, but really through the best thing that you can do, which is stand up, right? And you are a transformational coach, you're a speaker, you're an author. Um, and I love, the concept of what you're doing with stand up, and I want you to talk through that. You've worked with people through all walks of life who've been stuck in self-doubt, overthinking, and emotional traffic jams, and you help them get moving, literally and like emotionally, right? And so if you ever feel like you're in a place, my listeners who need, have that inner voice, and they think, God, this is just good material. This is the right place for you to be and listen to. So I will, with that, have Rita tell a little bit about herself, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your journey. I love, we've talked before, but share with people kind of a little bit about your world. So
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Geeta. I really appreciate your generosity here and to spread this message, if you will. Um, so I work with stressed out professional moms primarily, and I was a stressed out professional mom. And I did this sort of traditional coaching route. I was a social worker. I have an MSW and worked with women in potential for a long time and did sort of what I would call typical coaching things with professional moms. And then in 2017, I kind of took a break. I took a step back from coaching because I was coaching, whether consciously or unconsciously, with this expectation that I had to make the change. I had to have them change, or else I wasn't going to be successful. And when you put that burden on yourself, you burn out really quickly,
right.
right? So I was like, I'm just going to take a step back. I really was just like, I don't give a shit anymore. Can I swear on this, by the way? Can I?
We are there. Go ahead.
Okay, too late.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know, women just gonna have to take care of themselves because I can't do it anymore.
Right.
And I was looking at my next chapter, and there was our local adult school was offering a stand-up comedy class. I didn't even know these things existed. Now you can take a class in anything, right? But I just thought stand-up was something that you just go to open mics and you figure out and you struggle through. And I think that's still there, but now they have classes for people to
Yeah.
take. So I remember looking at that and then going, oh my gosh, I kind of want to do this, but it scares the bejesus out of me. Like, I'm just like, literally was shaking like this as I was registering online for this class. And in retrospect, I thought that's actually a perfect combination of things, right? Is like you're terrified, but you can't not do it, you know?
Right.
Um, but at the time I kept thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? So anyway, I registered for the class. And then of course, once I got to the class, I was laughing because it was in the local middle school. I wasn't doing Carnegie Hall. I wasn't
Right.
like stand up at Caroline's. I was literally in the health classroom of our local middle school. They were teaching beginner guitar down the hall.
Right.
And everyone in the class was just everyday people. They were just people who were kind of told that they were funny or thought they were funny and decided to take this class. And at the end of the class, we had a graduation show in an actual comedy club. So I thought, all right, okay, I can do this, and I took the class with a girlfriend of mine, and he just kept going, all right, once you get behind the mic, it was called Behind the Mic. And all right, just get behind the mic and start telling us about yourself. Do you have any funny stories? Just sort of like easing us into the whole thing. And there were 9 people in the class, by the way. It was a huge class. And in the beginning, it was like, I don't know about this. And then, well, maybe I can do this. You go through your journey, right? And at the end of 6 weeks, I had a set, and they recommended you go to an open mic. So I went to an open mic in the club that we were doing the graduation class, got up there, had never done an open mic before, and announced that I'd never done an open mic. for my own protection, my own like, hey guys, never did this before. I'm just up here, and they're like,
Right.
oh. And it was all guys, which is hilarious because I was telling all my jokes were about being a mom. And I think they either were bored or looked shocked of the things I was talking about. So I didn't get a lot of laughs, but I didn't care because I was just like, I did my first open mic.
I
Like
love
that was
that.
huge. So going to the class, big deal.
Right.
Getting up in front of her, in the back of the mic, big deal. Doing my first open mic, big deal. And then the next step was to do the show. So I did the show. I did my set, was panicked. Like, oh my God, my mind went blank. Thank God I had a few little notes. I went up there. I did my first joke for the regular audience, which the audience was half women, started getting a lot of laughs. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is like my wedding day. You know, that's what it felt like. It was all eyes on me.
Love that. Yeah.
My friends were there. My husband was there. People were celebrating this thing that I was doing. It was amazing. Came off stage, yay, thank you. Came off stage, went right to the back of the club just to have a little downtime, a glass of wine. And this woman came up to me and she said, oh my God, I have 3 kids too. I never get out. I came here to see one of your classmates, but I have to say, you made me laugh so hard, I almost peed my pants.
Hmm.
And I thought, I think that's high praise. You know, And then I also thought, honey, if you've had 3 kids, don't you know you need to wear a panty shield? Like,
I loved it.
postpartum 101. But it never occurred to me that this could have an effect on another person. I was doing it. It was just my bucket list item. And after that, I went, wow, this is, so I had that moment of my performance was therapeutic for someone else because it allowed them to laugh and respond, maybe be shocked, maybe groan about an experience that they can relate to.
Hmm.
And I thought, this is, pay attention to this. And the other thing that I thought was so wonderful about it was I've had coaches since then who have helped me like figure out how do I want to feel throughout my day. And one of the coaches said, I want you to think about an event or a situation where you felt you were at your best. What were you feeling? First, think about what it was. And the moment that I thought of was coming off stage, talking to my friends after I did my set. And I was a celebrity that night, because I had done something that a lot of people didn't think they could do. And I remember thinking I was relaxed, I was chill, I was excited, I felt easy, everything felt great and felt powerful. And so when I wrote down those feelings, she said, I want you to like pick the top 3 and I want you to, that's what you go through your day with, those top 3 things. So it was the comedy being therapeutic. I affected other people in a positive way. And then the way I felt was the way I want to feel throughout my day. So those were like 3 really amazing nuggets that I experienced through this process. And then to get to why I teach it, I was doing shows. It kind of spurred me to do other things. So I took the class a couple times. I did more shows. I started going to other clubs, started meeting other comics. And I live in New Jersey. There's a whole sort of semi-amateur, semi-professional slew of comedians where they do shows all over the place for charity. Sometimes they get paid, sometimes they don't, but they just love getting on stage and doing their thing. And I got in with that group. And so I sort of saw that circuit in the area. And I did a couple of those clubs. And then lockdown happened. It happened after I started co-producing shows in my town with other amateur comedians. We did mom shows, we did dad shows. And we always had like a really good headliner, to kind of be the draw, right? And we did 3 or 4 of those shows, always sold out. It was such a great thing to do. And then lockdown happened and all of that dried up, all of that performance. No one was performing live anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I shifted gears again towards regular coaching because I thought people are kind of upset and they're going through things. I'll go back to regular coaching. And by then I had changed sort of my mission, which was not to save anybody, it was to facilitate people saving themselves, really.
Mhm.
But I can give them the tools and it's up to them to use them. So I did that for several years. And then when everything eased up again, I started doing shows again. And the first one I did was a mom show in an office space, a large office space. And one of the women who did the show with me had never done comedy before. She was a mom, stay-at-home mom, never done comedy, but her friend said she's hilarious. We got to include her. So I was like, yeah, great. So she did great. She came up with a set. She had a wonderful time. And then like a couple months later, she said, I want to do it again. And would you consider teaching my friends how to do this? And I thought, all right, like literally just, okay. And she goes, I have a space. We have a house that's empty right now that has no renters. So we could use the living room and we probably could do the show here too. So
Mm.
literally she was giving me the students, the space, and the show venue, which are the 3 hardest things to get when you're doing anything, right?
Right.
It's like, all right, I guess I'm doing that.
Right.
And so we did that. 4 women came together in person, and I just brought my mic and my speaker, and we would rehearse in the house. And I just noticed these women would walk in. Oh, what a day.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And then I go, all right, get behind the mic and start talking about it. Right. And they start talking about it and they take the mic out and they blah, 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 blah. You're not going to believe what she said to me then. And then people start reacting. Right. They either have like the jaws, like, oh my gosh, really? Or they're
Right.
giggling. No. Oh, come on.
Right.
And by the end, everyone's laughing
Right.
because of the absurdity,
Yeah.
or they start exaggerating the characters in the story, or they
Right.
go a different direction. These are all principles of comedy, right?
Right.
Or they go, and then I became like a little kid, they're going,
Right.
their reaction and how like, oh my gosh, we're so human.
Right.
And then one of the women said, I always come in here irritated, frustrated from my day. And then I realize it's all just material.
Yeah.
It's just material. And we're laughing by the end.
I
And I,
love that.
you got it. You got it. And then not just the process of creating the material, which is magical in itself, but then
Hmm.
the performance at the end. So we did these shows in this woman's house and she got really into it. She had like tea lights, she rented chairs, we had what do they call the
Charcuterie.
charcuterie boards, wine, the whole things, all the friends, family. And the magic of that was that, like myself, we had our little green room, like one of the little side rooms, and the women are like, okay, oh my god, whew, okay. And I'd have like a little powwow, like I'd be just like, all right, ladies, you've already succeeded. Congratulations. You created material. You found the funny in the hilarious in your life. Now everything else is gravy. So go out there and have fun. Just
I
have
love
fun.
that.
The more
Yeah.
relaxed you are, the more relaxed the audience is. The more you're having fun with it, the more they're going to have fun with it. And each one of them would go out there and people would love it. And they come back like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Oh my gosh. Right. And then it
Yes.
opens up the world to what else is possible that I have put in the not possible category.
I love that. It's so, you talked about this. We talked about this before, about how, it subjugates, I call it, like subjugates the problem that they're working through potentially. And I don't know, do people come to you and let's just say, they have anxiety or do they have a particular problem that they're kind of, and then you're like so many questions. One is like, what if what if somebody comes in, they're like, well, I have a really hard time and I work with difficult people and I want to find a way to work through that with you. Do they come to you with like a conventional problem and it could be anything? And then I love what you say, you go take it to the mic, right? We talked about this before. Like, and they're not funny. Like, do you have to come already with an inkling of funny or do they find they're funny in the work? Like, what does that journey look like? And
Both.
how does that,
Yeah,
yeah.
that happens. It's sort of like when people go to a yoga class, right? And they go, but I'm not very flexible. And you go, well, that's why you're here, right? You're not here to be
Yeah.
the most flexible person in the room.
Right.
So, so sometimes people come because they kind of think they're funny and they want to see if they can take it to the next level besides just entertaining their friends over a coffee. They want to go, oh, what happened if I took this onto a stage to a lot of audience? So some people come because they want to learn how to write funny stories and jokes.
Hmm.
One, I know I've had people who are professional speakers, like traveling speakers, who came because they wanted to infuse what they say with more humor. They kind of feel like that's a muscle they haven't used and they want to engage the audience with humor.
Hmm.
Some of the women have come because they just want a healthier way to bitch about what's going on with them, like to
Hmm.
communicate like it's hard raising kids, or listen to what my teen just said, uh,
Right.
or they're dealing with a changing society,
Yeah.
and they're just like, wait, in my day we didn't have sex toys at CVS, and yet that's what I'm saying now. Like, let's talk about that.
Right.
um
Right.
some women, I had one woman in particular who was committed to not being funny. Like she said, I'm just not funny. I'd like to be funny, but I just don't think I have it. And the first class she came to, she was very much in that place. And we talked about different things. And I could tell she was like, no, I'm not funny. No, I'm not funny. No, you know how like people want to solve a problem, but they give you the yeah buts. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to ease off. And I said, all right, you just marinate here. I'm going to go to the next person. And as soon as I took the heat off of her and went to the next person, she could see that the other person was the examples that were coming through. And
Mm.
she realized, oh my God, I'm in a story, because she wanted to leave. She was just like in retrospect, she's like, I almost quit the class after the first class. And then she said, I'm so sick of doing that. Like she really had this experience of catching herself in the story,
Yeah.
wanting to get out of Dodge, and then realize, and like she said, I was on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
And then I said, relax and just listen to what this woman has to say. And then that part of her brain,
Sure.
the survival part, kind of just shifted to the problem solving part. And she went, well, maybe I could say that in a funny way. And maybe I could kind of make fun of this or that.
Hmm.
And she ended up having the best set of everyone in the class. Like she
Hmm.
killed by the show.
Wow.
And she used her resources, but it was a shift in her brain. And she, kind of like the next class I found, she confessed, I almost left this class. I wasn't going to do it. And then I realized maybe it's possible. And then she got down to it and was able to create that piece that she performed. And then she was really excited about it.
Hmm.
Like, is
Hmm.
that funny? I guess that's pretty funny, you know.
Yeah.
And it was all about herself. It was all
Yeah.
about what she does and who she is, and how she talks to people and what she talks about, what interests her. And then, and a lot of it was around her business. So at the end, when I was kind of doing like a debriefing after the show, I kind of had like a little debrief with everybody, like, how would you do this differently? And how did you think you did? What you like, what you didn't like? And she said, to tell you the truth, I realized I do have a funny bone. It's possible. And I think this could actually help my business,
Hmm.
because it allows me to be more flexible and more engaging. And I could use some of these jokes to bring people into what I do.
Right.
I was like, yes. So,
Right. Do you feel like that's what a lot of like, because I know you also said you coach with moms, right? Like, does this allow them? I mean, I would imagine that this allows them to deal with their challenges, their
Yes.
obstacles, right? Like better because now they're like, is it, and is it because of the subjugation of the issue or the like the hilarity of it and like, oh, is that really what happened? Because I know it's a therapeutic session for all involved. Like, when you, like you said, I mean, watching people go and share, it's therapeutic for me. It's relatable for me. It's relatable for most, right? If it's content we can latch onto. And then on the same side, there's a there's therapy for that person, right? And I'm assuming it's all because of this hilarity of the world that they're living in and going, this just is ridiculous. Like, is that what that's kind of a
Yeah,
big,
I think,
yeah.
if you ever do group therapy, one of the biggest therapeutic reasons why group works so well is because it
Mhm.
normalizes. You're not
I love
this
that. Yeah.
weirdo who's having this unique challenge that no one ever has, which just causes you to feel shame and humiliation and embarrassment, right? Oh, no one has challenge with their kids. Everyone else is perfect. And then you go into a group and you're like, wait, you have problems with your kids tantruming too? That happened to you too? You get frustrated?
Right.
You relax, right? I'm not the only
Right.
one.
Right.
Oh, we're all weirdos, we're all challenged. Or, oh, this is part of being a human being. Oh,
Right.
there's not, because, right, I think that one of the big core beliefs is there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Versus we're having a human experience,
I love that.
right?
That's
So
so
that's
true.
just one reason why I think the comedy helps. It's also when you laugh, and I don't have all the science to back this up, by the way. This is just my own theory about laughter. It's a release of tension. It's a
Mhm.
release. It's like crying, right?
Right.
Um, your body is like dance or crying. It shakes off the tension.
Yeah.
And when you do that, your nervous system relaxes a little bit.
Hmm.
And when your nervous system relaxes, is your brain is saying, okay, I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm if not, I'm safe. I'm safer than I think I am.
Hmm.
Right. And then you go into a different part of your brain. It's like you
Hmm.
have a good laugh and then you go, okay, all right, I can do this.
Right. 100%. I love that. As
Right.
opposed to asking for permission, right? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people feel like they've got like this kind of, I don't even feel like, I feel like also with this, you're offering, right? People feel like there's this permission now because the mic is like their permitter, if you will. I don't know if
Yeah.
that kind of, does that happen or people are like,
I
you
think
know,
so. Like I do both virtual and in person. And in
right.
person, yeah, you're standing up and you're behind a mic.
Yeah.
So that's what people are afraid of, right? What do they say? It's like people are more afraid of public speaking than dying, right? So it's like
Yes.
you have more people who want to be in the coffin versus doing the eulogy. And
Right.
I think it's because we're such social animals and we want to belong and fit in and not stand out, that the actual standing up and being behind a mic for for a lot of people, some people are naturally drawn to that, but a lot of people feel very vulnerable. Like
Hmm.
it's a place where you can be wrong, or you can be pointed to, or you could be marginalized or shamed in some way. And the great thing about comedy is that you don't even have to be right. You're just saying what's going on with you and the funny thing that you see in it. And either people
Right.
are get it or not get it. And I've always say to the students, look, I'm going to be there laughing no matter what. Like you have a plant in the audience. All right. We're going to support each other here. And by the way, you're not going to die if someone doesn't laugh. Like it's okay. Just move on.
Right.
Right. Which also, I think, really helps people deal with that tension,
Yeah.
right? To get over that fear. You're not going to die if people don't respond the way you want them to respond, which is a
Right.
thing for
Right.
people.
Yeah.
And one of my uh, comedian friends used to say, and I've said it too, is a groan is as good a laugh as good as a laugh for me. Like if someone goes, oh, That's good enough for me.
Right.
Laugh at it. Whatever the reaction is, that's
Right.
fine. You know,
I
you
love.
responded, you reacted. That's okay.
Yeah.
So it's a process of being brave enough to stand up, to be heard,
Hmm.
to be able to navigate through whatever the response is, even if it's silence. It's not going to
Hmm.
go. It's just silence. Just move
Yeah.
on.
Right.
Um, and and these shows are all for friends and family anyway. I'm like, look, this is like when you see your kid do a ballet recital. You're just
Right.
so look. It's really just you being up there is going to be enough for most people.
Yeah. Can you use it like as a coach in like on a one-on-one session or like do you I think we talked about this like you were like you'll say take it to the mic and you kind of try to bring them to that virtual place, right? Like
Yes, in the virtual class, we have on Zoom, we call it spotlighting. There's like a little, you can hit a thing that says spotlight or pin, and then you become the big, right? And it's so funny to watch my students the first time you do that. They're like, oh, wow, I'm here. Uh, I'm like, yeah, I want you to get used to that because that's what's going to happen for the show. That's your mic time. And that's okay. You can be big and not have anything to say initially. And I don't know if this is really funny, but I'm going to talk about this. And, and people respond. And then we talk about what made it funny or not funny and how to make it funnier and stuff like that. But just getting used to be in the center of
Mhm.
attention can be a big deal to people, whether they're doing public speaking, whether they're doing a business, whether they have to have a hard conversation with their spouse or
Mhm.
family member,
Mhm.
or to say something that's important to them about the world or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Being able to build that courage, and courage comes from doing things even though you're afraid. It doesn't mean
Right.
automatically you're not afraid. That's what courage is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people are
Right.
like, but I'm afraid. I'm like, well, that's what courage is doing things even though you're afraid.
Right.
The body starts to, initially you may be like, and you may always be but you still do it.
Right.
That's where the growth comes.
I love that. And and you said so many things you've said, like you're right. Like just a lot of people I bet, come and they, like you said, some have inklings, some have nothing. And there's so many entendres of like so many muscles that you're doing through this work, right? Like the conventional coaching, certainly there's a use of muscle, but I love the humor overlay because number one, you're bringing that person to the forefront, right? And you're saying, okay, this is you, and now we're going to almost spotlight the physicality of you or the you, but we're also going to spotlight the physicality of some of the chasms that you're trying to cross, right? And then
Yeah.
I bet what happens through the work is that, maybe they talk about everybody probably talks about the crazy that they're going through, right? And so they start to see different optics of that crazy. And because you're right, you're in a room of there where now you're starting the safety is heightened, right? And that expression comes down, right? And you get used to even just expression muscles, right? And then you can look at things and go, yeah, that is a pretty ridiculous situation, right? So then that material probably gets that much more stronger from day one to you know, day 30, let's just pretend, like that, because they're now looking at that thing and they're like, or things and seeing things and going, yeah, like I'm seeing things through a very hilarious vantage point because I'm almost using, right? Like you're using your humor muscles to some degree. I know it sounds a little cliche to say, but you know what I mean? Like you're there.
Yeah, it's just a different lens to look at life.
Yeah.
We look through a lens and then we think this is reality.
Hmm.
We just assume this is reality. It's like, well, yes, one of many perspectives of your reality, and you can choose for the most part which perspective you want to have.
Right.
It's sort of like I liken it to changing a child's diaper. It has to be done. How do you want to do it? If you
Right.
if you avoid it, it becomes a bigger issue, right? A
Right.
bigger, smellier issue.
Love that.
You can do it with bitterness. You can do it um uh with a sense of humor. You can do it with song. You can make it entertaining in a moment you have with your child. So
Right.
what perspective do you want to have? How do you want to do that?
Right.
And the more you can do it, I would say on that level of humor is a higher level, higher vibe, if you will, right?
Hmm.
Depending on the kind of humor you have.
Hmm.
And if you can do anything with presence or above, you're living a good life. You're living a
Hmm.
life that feels really good. So if it's enjoyment, enthusiasm, humor, presence, um, confidence, you're that's a pretty good life.
Right. I
Because
love
then
that.
it's not about what happens, it's your relationship to that. That's
Mhm.
the whole ball game. What's your relationship to what's happening? And it doesn't mean you have to find a joke in every single thing, but
Right.
it means, wow, how human is this?
Yeah.
Well, uh, amazing is this?
Hmm.
Um, I'm just thinking like I compare a lot of life to the labor process of having a baby, and there were moments where I was, really struggling, and other times where I was just like, oh my God, this is hilarious. I am a huge naked woman on an exercise ball, right? Someone's asking my social security number as I'm, just trying to get through the next contraction. This is hilarious. This is just
Right.
hilarious, right?
Yes. It helps with like present and it even helps with like perspective on like past things and processing like
Yes.
past, like I love because then you kind of and it doesn't I don't know if we've talked about this before, we've talked before, but like this whole it doesn't have to be an inherently funny thing. It's that because anything could probably be made funny, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah.
maybe your dog died and maybe there's humor in that experience. It's just a matter of you kind of looking at it through different lenses, right? Like it's because sometimes people don't, they think, well, I've got to bring something inherently funny to the conversation, or maybe even in your work, right? They're like, well, I've just got to find something that there's inherent funny. And I'm like, you can pretty much look at a lot of things through that lens, and it's a very healthy lens to look through.
Yeah. And you have to pick your times and when you're gonna zip it and
Right.
just have that funny thought to yourself. Um, yeah, I've made jokes that in situations or I've thought of them. My husband has a really good sense of humor. So, through the death of my father, there were times where he would say something to me and I'd be like, all right, I love that you just said that. I am not going to engage with you right now because I do not want other people to notice this, but just sort of people will not understand, but you and I know. um
Right.
and it would just little side things that were going on, you know
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
it can be done. If that's your lens, you can find it anywhere. Just like if your lens is anger and bitterness, you can
That's
find it
true.
anywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I love that. Well, this has been amazing. You know, it's just it was a great conversation. And I think that, people really can learn and like exercise this. I'm thinking through some of you know, kind of the call to action, if you will, that we can look at from this and having people kind of, I don't know, what is your thought? Maybe look through life through that lens, and then certainly they can reach you, right? And you do this work, I guess, physically still, but you also do it very virtually for
Yes.
people as well, right? So maybe
Yes.
you want to share a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
So in terms of classes, my program's called One Funny Mother, and
But
it's
do you have to be a mom to do it? Or not that I'm
no, a
challenging, but
woman. We
okay.
prefer a woman, but
Okay.
you don't have to be a mom. Um, but those classes, my next class is going to be July 1st. I'm calling it Mom Camp. Your kids are at camp. You should have a camp too. So
Yes.
July 1st, I'm doing my next class. And then also on Facebook, I have a group called Calm Mom Alliance where I do lots of workshops of all different kinds. And we have meetings and networking. And so anything for a stressed out professional mom, this is a great place. So, yeah, join the Calm Mom Alliance. And then in July, I'll be promoting my next class. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm sure you'll probably get some interest. I thank you for sharing a little bit about your world and the
Oh,
work that you do and the value that people will get out of kind of going through an experience like this. Um, And, thanks for talking about this process and the transformation that people go through. So, where we're both Rita and I are on LinkedIn. We are very accessible that way. So if you're wanting to get in touch with one or other, I do work with more of like finding that expression, less so the kind of let's say standing up or spotlight experience, but that is a facet of the work that can be incorporated in some of the things I do, but it's very specific to the work you do, and I love it. Um, so yeah, feel free to reach out. And I don't know if you have any parting words that you want to leave them with, but um,
Laughter is the best medicine.
yeah,
Really
really
is.
is.
Yeah, if you can have a laugh, you're gonna feel better. Just all feels better.
Yeah, it's for you and for them, right? Like the party giving and the party consuming. Like there's nothing. Yeah, so there's
Yeah, help
everything
the
in
whole
that word.
world.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Rita.
Oh, you're
And
welcome. My pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you.
awesome.